Lauren and I are going to play paintball today.
Fun.
Yeah. It's the first time we play paintball in like a year, but there's an indoor paintball place here that I practice at every Sunday, and on Friday, people who own their own guns can play. So it's because it's just logistical. Saturday and Sundays, they like the rec groups, they have like the 50 cal paintballs, which are tiny, but like tournament and competitive paintballers, they play like actual paintball, which is 68 cal. So there's only like a limited amount of times that like 68 cal players can play indoors, and one is on Friday at this place and the other one is Sunday or during practice, and it's a closed practice, so only the team gets to play. And so we're gonna go for the first time, and she's gonna use my team gun, which fires 10.5 balls per second, and I'm gonna use my pump gun, which fires as fast as I can pump my arm.
If you had to guess, how many per second is that?
I could probably get it going probably 6 or 7 times per second.
That's impressive.
Yeah, well, I think, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 actually, because can you hear this? Okay, so like
No,
you can hear that? I think
not really.
I think you're gonna hear in the recording. Okay, but it's okay. So 5.5, because this is a setting that we turn it to sometimes for practice. Our guns, 5.5 is da 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 da. Like it's very slow, and then so like I can pump that fast for sure. But like my pump gun also has a I can't remember what it's called, but it's a trigger where you just hold the trigger down and then you just pump it, and then every time you pump it, it shoots.
Oh, that feels like cheating.
But no, I mean not really. You can't aim very well with it. I mean, you're like going like this, and the gun barrel's like jumping all over the place because you can't keep it straight.
But if you were just trying to be fast, that you could be really fast.
Yeah, you can throw down what we call a lane. It's like a lane of paint and just throw it down. But no, we've been doing drills a lot. We've been shooting slower because the whole point of shooting slowly is the whole point of like playing a match is to get angles, because it's what is it? I can't remember what our coach says. Like, it's killing people wins games, but no, I can't remember. Angles win games because angles kill people. So
I thought you said ankles at first, and I was really hoping that you're shooting people in the ankles. But
I can't remember it's a good saying, because basically what he's saying is like, you shouldn't focus on killing people. You should focus on getting to the next bunker and getting angles and turning the field. And then he's like, that's what kills people.
The ankles.
Yeah. So you can get angles without shooting your gun. You just have to move when you're not getting shot at. And then like once you have an angle, there's nothing someone can do. Like they can't even, like at a certain point they can't even shoot back at you because you've got that angle on them. And that'll really help like when you're shooting with pump, because then you can't rely on just shooting your gun.
I hope you shoot Lauren in the ankles.
I'm sure we'll be on the team together. If anything, she'll shoot me in the ankles.
You're not picking up anything like you're supposed to be picking up here. Once you said ankles, that's where I was at. I was like, yeah, it's the ankles. I'm gonna come to one of your matches and be like, get him in the ankles.
I did put in a request all year. I told my boss at my day job, I was like, I'm gonna be out like a lot this year because we have a full sponsorship with this year, so we're going to all 5 national events for free. It's the first one's in Orlando in March, and then there's a Texas one, there's a California one, Chicago, and then World Cup.
Dang.
Yeah, which is in Florida. But we're going to all those, and then we're also going to a regional one in Chicago, which has I think 4 events, and they don't coincide with each other. So that's 9 events, and the paintball season is only 9 months. So so technically it's like an event a month, which is 2 days off of work, and then but then yeah, and then we got in that I got invited to that landscaping pub magazine conference in Atlanta, and that's like literally as a tournament ends, I got to go from Tampa to.
Is it a conference or what? What is it?
It's a conference.
Okay.
Yeah. So just like have you ever been to a conference like Digital Summit?
I'm trying to think.
It's
I
just,
don't.
I don't know. It's just a thing for the speakers to talk about different topics, and then the alcohol's free. And then you have vendors there that sell things to you, and on like in like the actual trade show area, which I mean,
Sounds like the best time for me would be in the hotel.
yeah, I don't think you would like conferences.
No,
'Cause
I like
you have
hotels
to
though.
socialize.
It's like hanging out at your home, but you don't have to clean up. They just clean up after you.
Do you use the dressers at hotels?
No. Do you?
Sometimes, yeah.
Oh,
Like if I'm
Yeah,
if I get to the hotel room, I'm not super tired, I'll unload my stuff into the dresser for sure. And it depends on how long I'm staying. If I'm there for longer than 2 days, yeah. If I'm only there for 2 days, I won't. But in Mexico, we didn't use the dressers at all, and our hotel room is just a hot mess the entire time.
that's how it's supposed to be, I think.
I hate it. It was worse because we were locked in our hotel room for a while during the hurricane, and so we were just like locked in this messy room.
Sounds nice. I like it.
Yeah, but the hotel room did have a bar with like full liquor bottles upside down with like the spigots.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's fun.
Yeah, and it was free.
Well,
So Mexico is fun.
all right, Jake. What are we talking about today?
Things and stuff.
Things. Get ready for it.
Okay, we're gonna talk about documentation and processes.
Joy.
So this is really a piggyback off of our last episode, which was about hiring your first person. The whole point of documentation and processes, we mentioned it, but the whole point of it is so that when you do hire a new person, you can offload all that stuff to them. And if you don't have that stuff documented, you're just going to be holding their hand forever. Or you're going to run into the problem where you hire your second person and then your first person trains your second person, and then it's a game of telephone, and by like your third person, your services just suck because it was just trained by someone who didn't know what they were doing, or trained by you and then trained somebody else who that doesn't know what they're doing. So, but if you have documentation and processes in check, everybody follows the same set of rules every time.
Yep.
And the problem that you typically find with that is you're so busy, you need to hire somebody. So what do? You hire somebody, but now you don't have processes. So how do you train them? You've got to, you were already busy. So now you've got to add training somebody to this, and everything you do goes 1.5 times slower. The other option that you can do, which I advise most people to do, which is not what we did, which is when you do something, figure out the process for it first, document it, and then when you bring somebody on, that process is already there. However, like you implemented a documentation process that just kicked so much ass. And you learned it from somebody else though, right?
No.
No, that was all you?
Yeah.
I didn't give you enough credit. All right.
Yeah.
How do we document?
Actually, I've given our guidelines. I gave it to Jenny, and she uses it now for
I'm
her company, which is
shook.
like what 100 times our size, I think. Yeah. So, okay, I don't even know where to start with this, but I guess the one thing I do want to say too, because if people come from the last episode to this one, this is a huge, absolutely massive, important point. And it's that if you think about hiring and getting good talent and retaining them, and that's a major difficulty that a lot of companies experience, one thing that pretty much everybody at some point will be afraid of is I'm going to spend all this time training somebody and then they're going to leave. So that's going to suck. What can I do to keep them? And if you're small, well, there's no amount of money that you can give them. You do the perks. Like some people really like, we're remote. I mean, lots of people kill just for that alone, the ability to work from home. But we're also flexible hours wise. We're a lot of things, but it doesn't change the fact that if people are extremely money driven, and if you experience that sort of thing too, that you might get to a point where there's really nothing that you can do. And if you didn't do processes and they just learned everything and they become the gatekeepers for knowledge, when they leave, so does all that information too. So documentation is critical for keeping the information in the company and the security and stability of the business too, because nobody becomes a kingpin. Everything is universally accessible. Everybody's capable of doing everything else. If they had to, they might not be fast. Somebody's going to be better at it than other people, but they're able to access that information. So that's insanely important. I've talked to lots of people who have said like, oh yeah, I worked at a company and they had all this documentation and then we grew and I hated it. And I'm like, well, back up. You grew, right? You grew. So admit that it was necessary for rapid growth. And yeah, if you are, we talked about this before too, about monkeys, like monkey jobs where it's not a lot of mental processing, it's just do the procedure. Well, that's on you. In my opinion, it's if you're frustrated with just doing the processes and not actually growing anything else, that's your fault. There's nobody out here saying you have to stop at that. You can go on, you can go and develop, your own processes. You can create new productized services. I don't know. I say that as a boss now, but I also know if I'd done that, I had in some ways too, back at day jobs, no boss is going to be like, no, please don't work harder. Please don't look for new avenues of growth for our business. So yeah, the work has to get done and processes and procedures allow it to be done quickly. And I do believe there's sometimes where the work is just not fun. It has to be done. It's not really exciting, but with processes, you can do it extremely quickly and then get on to do the more fun things like testing or developing new things and that sort of stuff. So that's all I had for that. But about how we do it, man, I'm like, this is a monologue episode because
but this so yeah, well, prior to this episode, Cody was like, do you have any notes for this? I'm like, no. And he's like, that's fine, I can just rant about it.
I can. Yeah. So let's talk about the tools that are out there. Sweet Process is awesome. I haven't used it in a while at this point.
Hey, Cody, what's Sweet Process?
Sweet Process is a standard operating procedure / process management tool. And
sounds sweet.
Yeah, aptly named. But it, especially where we were at in how our capital expenses were looking, it was going to be a little bit expensive. So for a while, we were using one called NoteDoc. I think we used that here for a minute. Might have been at the job too.
NoteDoc. I think we reached out to him, but we ultimately went to Dropbox.
Right. Okay. Dropbox Paper is another one that people use. There's a ton of them out there. And we have a Google Drive, separate drive for processes that's dedicated entirely to that. So I think the most critical thing about having processes and procedures is making sure that people give them reverence and the respect that they need in order to be followed. And one of those things is keeping them in some place that make it clearly differentiated from everything else.
I want to take credit for Google Docs.
Yeah, that's fair.
We were on Dropbox for a while, and then I was like, no, this should be on our drive. But your main objection to it was like you couldn't continue an ordered list.
Yeah, that was one of them.
Like in Dropbox, like in Dropbox, you couldn't do like one and then like do like several paragraphs and then go two, but like immediately. But you can and you can in Google Docs. It's just you have to set the starting number to 2.
Yep. Yeah.
That's so minor. I'm like, nah.
There's other things. Well, okay. I think just mentally, this is something that trips some people up, and it's the same place that you can scribble your miscellaneous thoughts in a document, like just a Google Doc in your own drive. It's in the same place. And because of that, some people don't want to give it the respect that it needs. So that's why I thought and was like, hey, well, if we're going to do this, we have to put it in a drive of its own. So we have our own different drives like clients, internal, administration, but Now, our minions don't see administrations. That's just Jake and I handling those things. But process is its own thing. It's completely separate. And I think that's necessary in order for people to respect and appreciate what it is and give it the value that it deserves. Because if you put it someplace where it can be the same place as all your other messy stuff, then you're not telling your team that it's important. And then if you come back and say, well, did you read the documentation? And they say, well, no. Well, did you give the right expectations that the documentation is God? Because you should, and that's what you have to do. And but it's also a living, breathing document. We've talked about this, Jake, about it needs to be updated. Things change, things in the UIs change, but
yeah, it's not a Tai Lopez course. You can't make it once and then sell it 10 years later.
I'm actually going to pull up the rules that I have because I think people might find these helpful.
Oh yeah. So did you say that you had rules for like you wrote out rules for documentation? Yep. So like, yeah, but before, if you're going to document something, you've got to follow these rules for documentation because our documentation has to be standardized. It can't just be like, oh, I can tell this documentation was written by this employee because they suck. Like you shouldn't be able to tell who their document was written by.
Yep. Yeah. And we've started, so we kind of have depth, different levels of legitimacy to the procedures because we're still developing lots of new ones at this time. But so just right at the beginning, we have at the top of a document, it says exactly what the procedure is. So it gives a concise description of the procedure. And then if it has a gold star next to it, I've reviewed it and given it my blessing, which means if I say this because if something goes wrong, it will come back to me and I have no problem saying, yeah, I messed up. I haven't reviewed it. Something has changed, that sort of thing. If we have something that's basically beta documentation that I haven't had the time to review, it's me saying, this exists. I don't know how legitimate it is yet because I haven't gone through and then additionally tested it too with other people to have them go through it and then see, did this catch everything? Was there anything else still messing after it had been done? So that's why we have that part. After that, there's just a short description of why whatever that procedure is important. And so people are able to learn a little bit at the same time. Generally speaking, people don't have to know what they're doing when they're doing it while doing a procedure. That's the goal, is that you can accomplish things without understanding happening. And then afterwards, you have the time to teach and explain. But this at least gives a concise description if people want to look into it later about what they can look into. So after that, I just have steps and I'm going to read them because I can't even remember. It's been a hot minute since I've looked at my own rules. But 1, only nest steps to provide further explanation of the same step. So if you're going to go deeper, then it's got to be, otherwise it's a new step, right? Number 2, make nested steps alphabetical. Of course, you can do your own styles, however you want to do it. But if you're going 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, if it's going to be nested, then you need a way to be able to tell people if you're talking to them about it, how they can easily get to that sub step too. So if you say 2A, that's easy. If you say 2.1, that's slightly more confusing. So that's why the alphabetical thing is helpful. This one is, I'm a stickler for it. Put clickable items in quotes and match the case appropriately. So however it looks, that's how you should write it. If it's all caps, write it in all caps.
So like submit, if it's all caps, write submit in all caps. Some of these are like self-explanatory, like you should just do this, but like you'd be surprised.
So many people where they're like, I wrote documentation, and I look at it and I'm like, no. Put punctuation outside of quotes. So this is against, I think, American English, but it's a stupid American English thing that we do sometimes where the quotes will go outside But if you're talking about a technical term and you put that in quotes and then you have a period after that to end the sentence, I think that's more appropriate. Otherwise, if you put the period within the quotes,
Well, I think that's
then,
only in relation to like somebody like quoting somebody talking. Like if I think if you say like, if it says this, then the punctuation should definitely go on the outside. But yeah. But if you were to ask me and I was like quoting somebody that was talking and they ended the sentence in like a question or something like that, if the English language were up to me, it would be quote of the person with a question mark on the inside of the quotes and then a period on the outside of the quotes.
I like that just logistically.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, good. I think we should start a petition.
This is going to be called Jake and Cody standard American writing.
JCLA. I like that.
Yep.
No, was it JCLA? So like Jake Cody standard language.
Jake Cody language
of America.
That's good. Okay, number 5, put directional items in italics, also matching the case. So if it's not something that people click on, but if they're looking for a heading, italicize that so people know exactly what they're looking for. And then I say, I have that as a subnote of that is directional items are things you look for, but do not click on. So, and then next one, format plain text with code. This is just, I think, especially for our industry, if you're going to have copy and paste this, well, you better do it in plain text. Don't be doing that in rich text, because depending on where you're pasting it, you're gonna break stuff. Like I always have it's just a habit now at this point of when I paste, it's Control-Shift-V, so that way it's unformatted text. But I would love to think that everybody that as we grow will do that. They won't. So it's just another way to make sure that when they're pasting text, that it's as plain text as it can be. A few other things. End each step with a period. Link to a tool the first time you mention it in any document. So
the end each step with a period, that's like in reference to like a bulleted item. That's like like an ordered value. So like if you've got like A, B, C, D, and they're all like bulleted, all those should end in period. The sentences that go with those or the instructions that go with those end in periods. I think in like traditional writing, you don't have to. You can do one or the other. But we're saying it has to be consistent, and just for consistency's sake, put a period at the end.
100%. And then 9 was add pictures for clarity when necessary. So, Jake, you'd like to see one every step.
Yeah, I do.
As much as possible. So, I mean, it makes a little bit more work, but it is a good thing to do. Additional rules, I had 2 more. For exceptionally long documentation, use subheadings when needed. So basically H2 within your document that breaks it up further. That way people aren't looking for step 60 if possible. Yeah. They just see a subheading and then the number.
And it has to be structured like according to SEO. So one H1, multiple H2s, because when you do this in Google Docs, when you use the correct heading format, it creates a table of contents in the left-hand side of the document, and you can jump to sections with the appropriate headings.
And my last one is my favorite. All official documentation must have yellow background. So that's yet another thing of.
That's my favorite.
If I had the chance to look at it, you're muted.
Oh, every time I open a Google Doc and I'm just like, I'm like, oh, this is documentation. It's just like yellow.
Well, you were the one who said that, right?
Yeah. Well, you weren't sure if we could change the background, and then I figured it out. It was like, this should be yellow, and you're like, oh, I like that.
Well, I think I said blue at first, and you were like yellow. I'm like, nah, you're right.
Because yellow is like, don't fuck with me. Oh, I want to bleep that one out.
Yeah. So, but it does make it very easy and clear when you're sharing with other people too. I mean, you share it, and then they see the levels of legitimacy when they see it's yellow background, it's got the gold star. Like, this is the Bible of the business. If it's, if it doesn't have the yellow star or the gold star yet, then it's good, but we're not quite there. And so we just keep working up. And it's because ideally, if we were bigger, if we had more time, they would all get to this point. But the fact is, we have to build some of this along the way. So that's why some of it just all isn't there yet. I'll be really happy when it does get there. And I'm able to foresee it up to that level. I tell Jake this. I tell you all the time. I'm like, I can predict and see all of this grow up to like 2.5 mil. And then after that point, that's when I know I'll have my life crisis and not be sure what to do anymore, because that's like how far the business plan goes. Then we'll have to lean more on other people.
So this wasn't even like the documentation that I thought was genius that you did, because
really?
Because I mean, this is like I get this. What I thought was genius was how like you made the rules, right? But then you would like tell people to document something that they have never done before. And that's what made this super easy, because we're dealing with new people. They've never done this before. And in order to document something, you technically have to have done it quite a bit and know what you're doing in order to do so. So the solution to that was, we could, instead of like training people on how to do things and making things take 1.5 times longer when we were already so busy, what Cody decided to do was record himself doing it and then just like talk himself through it. So like he would like record on Google Meet, and then like in just a meeting by himself, or someone else might be a part of the process. Like the person who was going to be documenting it would be in on the meeting, and he would record the meeting and then put the recording in a Drive folder and then just send them the link to the recording and said, all right, now document this. like you didn't waste any time. You just did it for a client like you were supposed to do, like you were going to do. But now someone else is going to document it for you according to your rules, because you've already established them. And this is how documentation was just blasted through, like between August and October, 2 months, and like the entire, Christian Schaefer. I just got a literally popped up on a Facebook message right now. It says, been listening to your podcast, man, loving it.
Yo,
dude, that's also right when we're recording the podcast. He's gonna love that. That's cool. But yeah, so like we got all of our documentation documented by our minions who didn't know what they were doing, but could still document the process and then learn themselves in the process of documenting the process. It's like,
yeah, I forgot it. That's really
that's
important, and I totally forgot.
That's what blew my mind. Like that, I thought you took that from somebody, and so I was like, that's a really good idea. Whoever thought of that? Apparently, it was you.
Jenny proposed it.
Oh, so really, it was your woman.
Yeah. Let's give her full credit.
All right. Wow, Jenny, that's amazing. Is she in the room right
now? She's looking at me.
I thought I heard her.
Yeah.
She got a shout out. We need to bring Lauren and Jenny on the podcast.
Shout out to Jenny. She's always confused. She'll start walking over and she'll be like, "Are you recording?" Like, yeah. So that's just what happened. But no, she'll listen. She's like one of our biggest fans, so she'll listen and be like, "Yeah, I got a shout out."
She's our only fan.
That's it. Only fan.
Oh, I don't.
Oh. Not sure if we say it like that.
Yeah, I don't think we can say that.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
There was a time.
What?
In the old days.
Oh yeah. But yeah, as far as like documentation, that's how we do it. If you got a better solution, like, let us know. Send us an email. Send me an email. Jake@evergrowmarketing.com. You can also visit our website, the everbrospodcast.com, which is now up and running. It's just not like fully fleshed out yet. So there's probably some stuff on there that's, like Latin text, but it's up and you can subscribe. We're not emailing anybody yet though. But yeah, you can reach out to us. Let us know what your documentations are like, and if you have any ideas. But it works for us.
Yeah.
Man,
I think that's most of it. I'm trying to think of anything else that might be.
I feel like we were landing a plane, and then like it was just like the landing gear didn't come down, and we just like skidded across the runway right there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because it was like, am I done? Did I have more thoughts? We didn't. I
feel like there should be more thoughts.
I could have just ranted about this.
Because this is a very important process, like getting your documentation done. This is how you scale. If you don't document, you're never going to scale. Like that's just a fact. So hiring the right person the first time, and then also documenting things so you can hire more are like literally the only two things that are going to get you to grow. Sales will come naturally.
Oh, okay. I do have one more thing, and I would just say to make sure that when you're doing okay, let's define the words quick. Process is the order in which you do something. A procedure is the documentation to accomplish one of those tasks within a process. So when you write a procedure, it should be one complete thing by itself that you can set about doing, you complete it, and then when it's done, you can move on to the next step, which is a different procedure. And there are going to be procedures that need to run together in a general flow, like maybe with a deadline, but have them be separate tasks that can be finished and then the next one started, so that there's nothing hanging in limbo, if that makes sense. I hope this is helpful to people. I really do. I've spent a lot of time thinking about these things, but Jake knows better than anybody. Like I hate if I'm 3 things behind, my life is over. Like if I can deal with 2 things on my plate, but generally speaking, if I'm working from behind or working even, I'm stressed. So the only times I feel good is when I'm working ahead. And this is one that is like constantly dragging on me because there are things that I'd like to improve on and grow for us that require more documentation. But that's also me taking the time to make those videos and then send them off. And then not only that, but when it's done, then to review it again once it's sent back to me and give it the gold star of approval to know that, okay, yeah, this is done to the level that we need it to be. But I mean, even you have the problem of taking the time to make the videos, but even just having the opportunity to do them, sometimes you have to wait for a job to come through, for a task to be done. We found that with like Google Workspace, because we do a lot of setup for people with Google Workspace, but there's a lot of nuance and one-off things that happen when setting up Google Workspace, because a lot of things are situational. So trying to do that has taken a little bit more time because we have to wait for certain types of setups to come through. And yeah.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add to that. So I'm just going to say, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, I did say, like, you feel better when you're working ahead. I was like, working ahead? What's that? I feel like once I get to a point where I'm like, I don't have anything pressing, like I just don't work. Like, I just like, because then I'm just like really lazy about things. I just get distracted. I watch.
I know that's how you feel, but that's also why on like my personal to-do list, there's a section at the bottom that says Jake. And then when you're just like, man, what are we doing? What's going on? Like, here's the things, just so you know that if you want to, they're not critical, but you totally can do them if you want to.
You have Jake on your personal to-do list?
Yeah, it's a subheading. It says Jake should lead.
Jake should.
And then it's things that you are good at.
Oh, basically like, here are things that we should do, but Jake should do them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's like Jake's to-do list as for subsection of my to-do list.
Dude, I think I think a good
I
next.
make too many lists.
Well, I think a good next episode should be like how to get published in magazines and like major publications without paying.
Because that's one thing that I have under your Jake should lead list.
Yeah, no, I know. Because every single time you want to get published in a magazine, you're like, Jake, I need you to get us published in this magazine. And then you like write the article and you're like, here it is, pitch it.
Yep. Yeah, it says under your name, Jake should leave new client acquisition. Or wait, no, not that one. Yeah. Talk about how to get accepted by guest publications. So yeah, you're really good at getting the attention of editorials.
I think a 90% success rate.
Word? Yeah.
Editors. I guess editorials. I guess that works. Well, like, there's a new magazine, new landscaping magazine. It's a new one, but it's basically a rebrand of like a UK landscaping magazine, but it's in the US now, and like the owner of it is from the UK, and we were trying to find publications to get published in that we haven't already been published in because we've been in like everything. And this
all the US ones.
This is all part of our Bing. This is all part of our Bing ranking because we need more links according to Bing.
Everything comes back to Bing and how I don't know. I won't use we language. I'm frustrated that we are not anywhere to be found on Bing. I don't get what their deal is.
You type in lawn care marketing company, we're number 1 in Google. You type in anything in Bing, you don't even show up.
We're like dead.
Yeah, except we were looking in our Bing Webmasters tools and we saw that there were like 190 impressions for landscaping keywords, and we were like position 15, so second page, and we're like, wait, what? So the first thing Cody does is write like a 2,000-word blog post on landscaping keywords for SEO and Google Ads, and now you want to do
really shameless too. Yeah, if you try to read it,
you're like, wow, this says landscaping keywords a lot.
Yeah,
not quite keyword stuffing, but it teeters on the edge.
yeah. It passed Yoast. They said it was okay, but it definitely had high density.
But and then part of
it's good too. People should read it. It's a good read.
It got a lot of activity. It got a ton of it. But there was, well, then part of the acquisition effort is also to get into other magazines and publications. And so we're looking at this other one, and they had an about section, and like the owner of the magazine, we were just like looking at her on LinkedIn. I was looking at her on LinkedIn while we were meeting yesterday, and I was like, I'm going to connect with her. So I connected with her, and on LinkedIn, you can't just like inbox somebody unless you pay for like LinkedIn Premium. And I don't. So, but you can add a message to your connection request for free. So I connected with her and I added a message, and I was like, hey, I've written a lot for other landscaping publications, hoping to connect. And like, that was like, she actually connected with me within like 30 minutes, and she connected. And this morning she sent me a message, and it was like, oh, hey, sorry, your job title threw me off. Like, yeah, we should talk more. And then she even invited me to a conference that she's holding in Atlanta to grow like the publication in the Western US, and to grab coffee with her, and gave me a free ticket to the conference. So yeah, it was big. It was a big move. I was like, whoa. But it was also convenient too, because I'll be in Tampa for a paintball tournament literally the day before. And so like on my way back to Minneapolis, I can stop at Atlanta, which is a Delta hub, just like Tampa and Minneapolis, Delta hub. But so I can go to that, and like that would be big to get in with. But like my success rate for getting in publications is like 90%. We have a target.
A real skill.
Yeah, we have a target, and I'm gonna get them. But it's not like stalker. Like, I don't just like. I think I'll follow up like 3 or 4 times, and then I'll just like, okay, I'll go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's big. I think people don't really realize, because when they think of that, they think guest posting, and that's just not the phrasing you should even think in your mind. It's collaborating with legitimate publications, and that's what you should do for your business to get more attention, but also quality links.
Yeah. I need to write some notes down because I'm gonna forget them and we're gonna go too deep into it. But like one of them was like like how to know when to post on your own site versus when to collaborate with a publication. Like that's a big one too, is knowing the audience and what you should write for somebody else versus what you should keep on your own site. And I think we're really good at that distinction now. Like now if we have a good topic, we're like, this is good. And it's like, we should save that for publication, or we should get that one in house.
Yeah. Let's shut up about it and we'll tell people on a different one.
Yeah. That'll keep you listening. It's called a cliffhanger. All right, guys. I think that's all we had. Thanks for listening to this episode. We'll see you on the next one. Could be about publications. Could be about something else.
See ya.